Hello everyone, and welcome to my Shadowrun Returns editor video. My name is the Night Wraith. I'm a student over at the University of Advancing Technology, looking to get into the level design field, as I'm here for my game design degree, but I'm specializing in level design. And I figured I'd go through and make a tutorial on how to go about doing your own levels in the Shadowrun editor. Now there are a few tutorial videos, very quick setup guides from Harbinger Games themselves, but I felt that when going through and looking for other tutorials, there weren't really too many out there. So I figured, hey, why not go through and make one? Because other than the videos that I looked at, which are very helpful, if you haven't seen Harbinger Studios tutorials on the game, on the editor itself, I would recommend doing it because it definitely teaches you a decent bit in terms of how you're going to go about doing things. But I kind of wanted to give, I guess, more of an intro. So, okay, how do you open up the editor? Well, we're going to go through, you're going to open up Shadowrun Returns, and you're going to go into Content, and in the Content area, you're going to see a bunch of managed content, anything that's community-based, things that you've downloaded. Obviously, you have the core Shadowrun content, and then you can go through and get a bunch of others on the Steam store. It's really cool, but we're going to make our own level, right? So you're going to go down, you're going to click Run Shadowrun Editor, and you're going to watch it as it, goes through, refreshes content, pack data. If you haven't started one already, obviously, then it's going to refresh for the main stuff that you have. Now, I know it'll probably take a little bit to open. I'll most likely, depending on how long this takes, I'll most likely go through and cut this part, and then we'll jump back in once everything kind of settles, because this is taking a bit. Actually, yeah, I think I might have. I think I'll go through and cut the video. So I'll see you guys when we return once this opens. All right, welcome back. So, welcome to the Shadowrun editor. As you can see over here, you have a lot of stuff over here. It's basically your little story data tab. And over in here, this is where you can go in and start making new scenes, conversations, quest items. You can edit assets, delete them, refresh, and obviously you have the options here to either go for just strictly Shadowrun core, Seattle, Deadman Switch, or Blood, or my level, which is Blood is Blood, which I'm still working on, was an assignment. But to me, obviously, this is more than just an assignment. This is, I'm very passionate about, the levels I create. And then over down here, you have your asset library. So over here in this asset library, this is where you can go through and get pretty much characters, tile sets for the apartments. This is where basically all your tile sets are for all the different things that you can build. You also have you what is it? You're gonna go through and put out, like player spawns. It's like little player actors. It's basically what these are spawners for the player to spawn in, or the I guess, like, if you're in a city or if you have a bunch of enemies, they also spawn in as well. So down here you have more of your scene data. So this is a very big little section down here, and this is why. So over here you have your triggers, your variables, tags, events, and goals. So on each of these, you can go through, and when you right click, and you can create a variable, you can create a trigger, you can copy, paste, duplicate, all these other stuff, create events, create goals. And when you do this, you get this over here. which is, if I'm correct, I'm not really sure if this is Python. I would think it is. I'm not really huge as like a coder, but correct me if I'm wrong. If anybody, just down in the comment section, if this is Python or not. All I know is that it's from using it. It's their little visual scripter, so it's actually really easy to use. It's like with everything that's basically in here, you have your when statements, if, do, and otherwise. And when you click on these, you can go through and add new things. So it just, all of this that you see here is what you can do. And then on each of these selections, you'll have more for your if statements, your do, and otherwise. And then if you don't want something, you can click the little minus button here, and then it'll take it away, and it's fairly easy. It'll just delete it fully. And obviously you can choose to activate it when the map starts, or you can set it so it'll activate when something else, basically, if it's a trigger, it'll activate when something else happens. And then obviously you have your variables for the integers and all that other stuff. So it's fairly easy. Then you have your scene contents. This is where you can go through and it'll show like how many actors you have, interactable props, your regions, your paths. In the event that you create an AI path route for them to walk around, which is really cool. And getting into things, so now we can go into the properties. So with the properties here, every tile set, everything that you basically put into here, even these little props, the player spawners, they all have properties. And in this tab here, it'll show you everything. It'll show you its grid position, is it pointing west, the level of detail on, whatever it is you're looking to have like detail on it. You can make it look very nice. For the player, if you have a player in here, it'll show the grid position, the level of detail. You can go into actor properties as well. So your PC spawn slot is 0 because you're the main character, right? But if you wanted to add more, let's say I go through and I copy another one, it would be, 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. So you can have up to 3 other people, which would bring in the ideals for having, hiring other runners, which we'll get into at some point. Other than that, you have basically all these little property areas here. It'll go into the actor, like what scene dimension is this in, what's the actor name, actor type, is it a player or is it a guard that protects, hunts, destroys, seek and destroy, or is it a non-combatant? And then you have your other like statements here, true false statements. It's generally pretty simple. Haven't really had the time to, or not really time, but I haven't really used these yet. I haven't found a need to. But these are definitely things you can mess with if it works for what you're doing. But out of everything in here, there is a little bit of there is some limitation. So you have your scene analysis, and you have a CPU and memory. So as you go through and you put in different textures, you put in you put in all these different tiles and textures, basically, props and all. That uses up memory. And as you go in and you start putting in more for the actors and regions and all those other things, that'll start to use up memory as well, and a bit of your CPU depending on what you're doing. And that's just, that's just limitations in the engine. It's nothing too bad, though, because they added a really cool thing where if you copy and paste, if you copy and paste the same thing over and over. So if I go to this wall here and I put this out here, and I put that out there, and I put that out there, and I put that out there, and you know, I just continue doing that, right? As you can see, when I delete these, boom, nothing's happened. Nothing major has really... Oh no, it does change it a little bit. I guess it does change it a little bit for the sake of putting stuff out there, but for the rest of everything else that you do copy, it doesn't seem to go through and raise this at all. And that's just because it recognizes that you are... The engine will recognize that you're using the same title over and over again. And it won't... It'll add at least one of them on to this, but it won't add the next copies of the same thing. So it helps save a lot of room. If you go through and let's say, like, you know, you're using walls, right? So obviously you only need, let's say, maybe 3 different walls, because let's say they all have different textures, right? Or maybe 4, I should say. 4 or 5. In this one, there's 3, 4, 5. There's 5 different walls. So when you go through and you pull out all these 5, it'll go through and, you know, put them into the scene. It'll use up a little bit of CPU and memory, but then when you start to copy them over and over again, it won't use it as much. When you start putting other things into the scene, however, it'll start going up. And then obviously you have everything down here. It'll show you how much CPU and memory this is taking up. So obviously you see that the general triggers are only taking up CPU, and that's like maybe, you know, like not even really a huge percentage, right? So it'll tell you what's going on and how everything's going, and then it'll bring in the scene actors. So the scene actors, however, take up a decent amount of CPU and memory, and it all depends on what you're doing, how many scene actors you have in. You know, you go into the map data, which is the set for, you know, textures, right? So your map data, you know, the prop textures weren't taking up CPU, but took up like less than even a percentage of memory. However, the map dimension on here takes up 12, you know, CPU, 225 memory. You know, then you have map lights, which are CPU, and then pretty much all that other stuff. And then you can go through and bring in visual effects that they have. You have props used only once, and then that's just a lot of stuff down here. You know, that uses up some memory, but like not really too much. And then you have your movement triggers, which I haven't done in here, but I assume that they do, obviously, take up either CPU or memory. So that's basically everything for the scene analysis. Oh, I almost forgot. For properties, and I'll go into this a bit more, you can turn props. So in your properties tab here, you will go through and you can add it as a dynamic property, or you can edit the interaction with this, which will bring up an interaction editor. And then you can choose to make it whatever you'd like that's specific to what you're doing. And you can even add prerequisites for interactions with this. And you can change the interaction distance. Let's say it's a conversation, you can choose what the conversation is going to be. And obviously all of these things on here are from the game, or you can go through and make your own stuff, which would come in here with the story data. So that's how all that works. Otherwise, just some general, I guess, just some general hotkeys. So if you want to go through, and let's say you want to toggle the underfloor layer. I don't have an underfloor, but there are different things where you can have one. It's all set on the number keys, not the number pad, but the number keys 1 through 0 at on the keyboard. And 1 will go through and toggle on and off the underfloor layer. 2 will take out the ground layer, so that way you don't have to like constantly do anything. And if if there's something that you want to grab but the floor is getting in the way, you can just take that away. So it's nice. You want to go through and you want to take out the ground decoration. Anything that has ground decorations like that, like this over here, the little floor bear rug, take that off real quick. It'll hide it, so that way you can go through and do some other stuff. And then this is the walls. So you want to go through and hide the walls so you can get into these little corners here. You can go through and do that. Same thing goes with any like wall decoration. You can go ahead and take those off, you know, in the event that you're doing something else and that's getting in the way. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1 through 5 are the floor layer, ground decoration, wall layer, and the wall decoration layer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So number 6 for the hotkey over here is basically toggling off the props. So just go ahead and press that, take all the props away if you still have a lot of things you need to work on, you know, and just kind of deal with that. It's nice. And then over here you go through, you can toggle the actor layer, so you can take off the actors or at least hide them. You can take off, like, you know, a little region. So if you create a region where you know, the player enters and something happens upon entering that region, you can hide that so you don't mess with it. You know, same thing goes with, like, if you have a path that's number key 9, and then number key 10, or I should say just 0, is taking off all the little point lights you have and hiding them so that doesn't get in the way. So that way you can still work on a bunch of stuff. You can see everything, so that way that light isn't in the way. And it's nice. It's really, really nice. And then on the same row, so the minus or underscore key will go through and take, you know, the invisible layers, because they'll show for you, but obviously they're invisible layers, but they'll still show up in the map. You can toggle those on and off. The equals and plus key will display the level of, it basically toggles the level of detail. Or actually, whoa, wait a minute. Oh, that actually doesn't have a key. What has a key is the toggle the bounding box. So that is your equals and plus. And then that's pretty much that. And then you can go through and take off the compass on the map view. Like, if you don't need it, you know, you don't need to have it. Any bounding boxes you can take out, you know. So it's really, really simple. And over here you can also check out, I forgot that this was on here. This also, I didn't, messing around with the keys, I didn't find one. But you can check what would have cover and what gives cover, if it gives any at all. So, you know, you have the little, like, half parts here. Obviously you have half cover. You know, you have full cover with these in here. You know, just general things where if you were in combat, it's going to let you know, you know, what what each thing is going to go for. And that's going to help you do your maps better, especially when you go through into, you know, really placing out props and more for, you know, basically, you know, for cover. So it's really going to help. It's really going to help that, as it depends on what you're going for. So now that we've gotten all that out the way, just the basics of how everything goes, you're probably wondering, well, how do I go through and how do I start a whole new level? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to go into File, and you're going to click on New Content Pack. So it says that my player home's been modified. Obviously, you won't have anything in your scene, but I'm going to save this real quick. So what will happen is once you click Create New Content Pack, it's going to show you the directory in which you would like to save it. Obviously, for me, it's going into my OneDrive, you know, and it'll go into your Shadowrun Returns content packs, Shadowrun Returns, and then your content packs folder. And then you go into that. So you can go through and redirect it wherever you'd like. I usually just keep it there because it's easier for me. And then over here, you can go through and start, you can edit some information. So content pack name is required, so we'll just say tutorial level. And author name, you can choose whatever, the Night Wraith. And then content pack description, this is a tutorial level. So you can choose to fill these two parts in. You don't have to, but if you're going to publish this map wholly, then I would recommend putting in an author name, in your content pack description, just because that's generally what this is. And then you can choose to go through and make it a resource content pack only without any story data. This with the resource content pack only, this is if you're going to go through and you're not making a story. You're not making anything for, an actual game, actual gameplay. This could be just you're putting in, let's say you're just making a whole level just to make a level. You don't have to worry about story data. You don't have to worry about, putting in, these different things to make a whole, functioning game, right? You can choose to take that off. For us, obviously, we're going to go through. We're just going to click next. And over here, it's going to go into the content pack dependencies. So this will choose. So what happens here is if you have any content packs, and I do, because again, I went off of the Steam store, you can go through and choose what resources will be available. Obviously, Shadowrun Core is always available. However, you can choose what else could be used. So, obviously, we're just going to go with the Shadowrun Core, because I don't know if... Actually, no. We'll go with Shadowrun Core. I don't know. Hopefully, you all have Deadman Switch, and then Seattle. Where's Seattle? Did Seattle get used? Okay, yeah. So when you click on Deadman Switch, Seattle is already, used. Seattle's already on there. But if you get rid of that, then obviously Seattle's only there. But we're going to go through and use Deadman Switch because that is the story pack that came with the game for me. And it has the Seattle pack and Shadowrun Core. So these three are just all together. That come with the game. So if you have anything else and you want to go through and use it, you want to download people's stuff off the store, use their props, you can go ahead and load them in. Other than that, we'll just go with Shadowrun Core, Seattle, and Deadman Switch because that's the default. So you'll go through and then it'll give you a summary of just everything where stuff is located, how you have everything, basically your little the stuff you did before just to set this up. And then if you don't like what you have, you can go back and change it. We're going to click finish. So it's going to refresh the content pack data, and it's going to present us with a blank screen. It is not going to do that because it crashed. So that's another thing with this editor. You have to be a little patient sometimes. So it does crash. It does end up crashing sometimes. I personally am not sure why, but obviously everything's done, right? So you go into your content packs. So let's say it crashes on you and you're like, oh no, what happened? Well, good thing your tutorial level already saved. It just crashed upon opening. So what you can do is you'll go into your open content pack, and for me it opens up to Blood is Blood because that's what I've been working on. That's the older one. So then you just go to your tutorial level here and you click open, and then you'll click on data, and then you'll open that. Stories. Why isn't it opening? Oh, you know what? Because we don't have any content for it, so let's see. It's actually interesting. I don't know why it did that. Maybe in... Okay, there we go. Yeah, you just click on that and then it should open. So, you're going to open up to this and you're not going to have any... You're not going to have anything on your screen, obviously, because there's nothing here, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to go in... Actually, no. What you're going to do is you're going to go into the story data and you're going to create a new scene. So, it'll ask, would you like to create a new scene that references an existing map file, duplicate an existing map, or create one? Obviously, if you go to use an existing map, you can choose on here what you want to use it for, and it'll give you everything from Dead Man Switch, you know, basically their game. However, we're not going to do that. We're going to, again, go up to this little wheel here in the story data section, go to new scene, and we're going to create a new map. So now we have a map. We have a little area that we can start putting things in. And let's say, you know, you want to build something simple, right? So we're going to go through and we're going to go over to the asset library, and you can filter in things that you want to filter. So you can go through and let's say, you know, floor. You know, you can go through and figure out the floor, and you can figure out what you want for your floor. As, you know, you have 3x3 balcony panels, you have, you know, just the tiled floor panels. It really all depends on what you want to go for, but they all are separated into groups, which over here is where they're at. Now, what do we want to do? Let's say we'll go for... Say, what's a good area we can go through and do this in? Teach you guys how to... we'll go through and make like a tiny house, right? We'll go through and make, you know, a Shadowrunner's house. And that shouldn't be too bad. Actually, we'll just go back to all. And, well, it's really cool because technically, if you wanted to and you're not sure what textures you want to use, you could pull out just a simple floor panel. It's a white box. And you could plan out how you want to have the floor. So this is good for just like planning out things, white boxing the level first. And then when we get into, you know, everything else, when you know what you want to do, after you've built out your house, you can go through and start putting in textures and then pulling these out and then putting things in their place until you have everything set. It's a really good way to do levels. Always, you know, I always white box mine, obviously. A lot of designers do because that's just the testing phases. So because I don't know what we're going to use, because I don't want to use the plated floor. You know what? We'll go through and use the wood. So you have the dive bar, and you have wood. It's 2x2 wood 1, wood 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. So there's 7 different tiles, and each of them have different look. You know, each of them are styled differently. For us, we're gonna go through and we're gonna put it into what they like to call the graveyard. So this is where we just kind of like put everything, right? And so we'll go through and grab this, and let's say we'll grab wood tile 2, we'll grab wood 3, and wood 4. Alright, because we're not making anything too big. And then obviously we can go through and create the floor. So a really neat trick that they had in here when I was watching was, with all of these, you can go through and if you hold control and then you click on the tile and you drag it out, you have now duplicated it. So control, you know, and click the tile and then drag it out, you have a duplication, and it continues from there. That way you have your little graveyard that you can go through and just pull from ever so often when you need to go through and do things, so that way you know what you're using. But there's that. And then if you want to go through and let's say we bring it out 3, right? Now if you want to go through and select all of these, you can hold shift and click each of them and select them all, or you can hold shift, drag to create a box around what you're looking to do, and then it'll highlight the whole thing. And then we can control click, drag it out, and then we can select this whole thing again, control click, drag it out, select this again, control click, drag it out, and then now we have this little field over here, right? This little field. Obviously we want it to seem more open to, you know, different areas. We don't want it to just be like a tiny box, right? You know, it's better to have some dynamic to it. So we'll go through and let's say like the doorway is right there. We'll go ahead and move these a bit up. So let's say your doorway is going to be like right here. Then you walk into the house, and you know, let's say that behind here is going to, you know, there's going to be a door here which leads into another room, which let's say, you know, is kind of, say it's like a little, you know, it's a little bigger than the others, you know. So we'll say it's like, I could have just grabbed a whole other like tile, but I didn't feel like it. So, you know, we'll say like, you know, the room kind of goes into another room in here. We'll say that we'll say that this, you know, goes into something. We'll also put a little something over, let's say, over here. We'll get to that in a bit. But, you know, we have like a little basic area we can go through, and I'll duplicate this and I'll bring it over. And unfortunately, when you click, when you go through, you can't really like rotate this whole object. You can rotate it in terms of it'll shift, and it'll, you know, definitely, you know, the tiles, as you can see, change, right? So you click on this, and then you hit R, and then you can see that the tile has rotated. And then if you hit R again, boom, it is rotated. So it's really good for variety. What we're going for is we're just gonna, let's say, make another, let's say we're gonna make like another room. We're gonna push this over here because this is gonna be something else. And let's say, you know, we go here. This room is gonna be a little bit smaller. Let's say, like, you know, there's pretty much this, and that's that, you know, that's about it, right? So there's nothing else there that we want. You know, kind of have this like room that just kind of flows, goes into another one, and then goes into another room. And that's pretty much that, right? So that's where we've started off our base for the house. It's not really that good of a house, but for tutorial purposes, you know, we'll do what we can. So now that we have just the base floor in, what if we want to add more textures? So we don't just want to use the 2x2 wood 1. Yeah, we don't want to use the 2x2 wood 1. Let's say we want to go through and use wood 2. So wood 2 obviously has a little bit of a different texture because as you go up here, it gets lighter. You know, the general wood down here, you can see the little lines in between, but as you go up, it just kind of fades, right? So what you could do is you could choose different areas. So let's say we want to place them, you know, in here. We could delete these, right? And then we can go through and Control Shift and then place this in, right? So this is wood 2. So obviously it's going to look a little bit weird if you shift it, right? Because it just, you can tell where everything's kind of lining up and then where this kind of, doesn't. However, keep it in place and you can see that, wood 1, right? Wood 1 on here has pretty much everything set. You can tell where all of the wood is. However, with wood 2, as you get farther over, it kind of mixes in and just settles, right? So you go through and you can do the same thing here, where it just kind of mixes together. You can see the difference. So we'll go ahead and put, like, let's say, those woods right there. Put one right here, and then we'll put one right here, right? So now we have at least differentiating tiles where you can kind of see where they go in between everything else. Now let's say we want to go through and do, wood 3. So here's an interesting thing that we can also do, right? Or actually, some of these, just trying to make sure I'm doing something right real quick. There we go. I didn't want to fill in that empty spot, because that's meant to be along, like, where we're going to do the walls, right? So, or at least the outline for how we're going to do the walls. It's going to be fairly, oops. Actually, no, this was going to be the outline. What am I doing? What am I doing? So, we'll go through and take these out. So we have this little section here where everything just kind of fits, right? It just flows. It looks all right in terms of, like, a little bit of it looks weird, right? Like, you can't really tell the differentiations, but if you look, you can tell the differences apart from wood 1 to 2, as you can tell the lines here. You can tell the lines in this wood are basically there, but then as you get over here, it kind of fades a bit. So another thing that you technically could do is along the outsides, you could put these along the outsides and just kind of like rotate them. So it's interesting because you could put these as like placeholders, where I've seen people just kind of like put these along the edges so they can go through and put the walls in. So that way it just makes this room bigger, which people usually do. So that way you don't have to, like, set the walls, kind of a little bit closer. You can put stuff on the outside. You can basically do whatever you'd like to do with these walls when we get to that part. But we're going to go through and let's say, we go through and take wood 4. Seems to have a bit darker lines that are set around, right? So we'll go through and let's say we'll take that out, put that in. Now, again, differentiation, as you go through and you put this in, and it just kind of flows. It looks nice, but then you put this in, and again it flows, but you can see there's again a little bit of fade in the little sections here. It just kind of fades off a little bit right here. So, again, you can choose to put this wherever you'd like. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing. You can make your room, you can make your rooms however you'd like them to be. You don't have to follow this specific room setup. But I'm going to go through and I'm going to put them all right here. So you do see a little bit of inconsistency here, which you can easily change that Just press R, rotate, and then boom, it fits in, it goes. So there's not these like really weird inconsistencies. You know, over here specifically, like, you don't really have to go through and change it up, as, you know, there could be a door that gets placed around here. So it's nice. But let's say we'll get done with the floor for now, because we're not going to make it too big, right? So now we're going to want walls. So we'll go through and type in wood. Ooh. Caps was on. We'll type in wood. And when you get through, you notice on here, so in the little assets library, you'll have, you know, a wood connector. In order to make walls, you need a connector, you need an end, because that's going to help make your corner pieces. You're going to need a wood edge. You know, you can use the different wood edges, and then you can figure out, you know, how everything goes from there. So, what are we going to do? We're going to put our walls in. So, first, I like starting with the corners. So, again, with all of these little, you know, with all these little corner pieces, right? You don't want to put the connectors here on the end and then just, you know, that's that. They have to be connected to an edge. So what you can do is you click on these, and when you hit R, you can rotate them. Same thing goes with this. So what we're going to do is, with what we just did, we have our first corner piece. So in the graveyard, we're going to keep that right there. And then we're going to control and then drag another one out. And then we're just going to change up the wall position. So click here. Now we have second wall position. That, control click. We are going to go through and we have this wall position right here. It's going to be on the side. And then now we have the last one, which sometimes I do end up, you know, like kind of having trouble with these sometimes. It depends on what's going on. And then bam. So now we have our 4 corner pieces that we could go through and put around these edges. And then we have our wall connectors, which again, as you can see, we have wood 1, we have wood 2, and wood 3. You know, generally looking different. You can see this one looks a bit more worn than these other two. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and put in our pieces. So what we're going to start with is, in a setup like this, we're going to take this and we're just going to place it right here through each of these corner areas that would need that, right? So you pick the corners where this will obviously fit and you place them there. And then you're pretty much done once you've placed them all where they need to be. And afterwards, you can go about and start doing, you know, other little pieces like this one, right? This will go right here, and this will go right here. And this will go over here. You know, you'll go through and place this one right here. And as you can see, they just connect. Right? It looks like it's flowing with the connections. And I really like how these are, because they just, I enjoy how these, you know, end up like just kind of piecing themselves together. So you have this, you know, wall of just connectors that just kind of go into each other, and it's really nice. So we'll go ahead and do the rest for, you know, the areas that need them. and we'll put this, over here. This will go right there. Let's see if I'm missing any areas. Yes, no, I'm not missing any areas. So now we'll go through and put in the other piece that we need, which is this piece. Another little edge. And we'll go through and connect that over there. And then we will... Any other edges to connect it to? There are not. So you will see that it's a little weird, and you might have to do, sometimes not everything is going to connect, hence why they have an interesting tool that you can use to kind of block this out, because not everything is going to connect up correctly. For what I've noticed when I've done these levels, you'll see little inconsistencies with like the stuff on here. It doesn't look like it connects fully, right? So you could just go through and like try and connect it out, right? Or you can kind of like alt and like nudge it over, right? And then you can have another piece that goes in between there, and then you can just connect it, right? So sometimes that's okay to do if you want to go through and do it, or you can go through and like nudge this over to the side and it still looks like it's connecting, right? It looks kind of weird. But obviously it's better than kind of overlapping. So you can just kind of like nudge these little pieces together if you wanted to. Again, if you want to nudge a piece, you just click it. You click your object, you hold Alt, and then you hit the directional keys, and you just kind of, move these however you'd like. So in order to close up that little gap, we just kind of nudge it over so that way it goes and connects. And then if you have any other pieces like that, that's basically what you do. So now that we have the little corner pieces in, now we can start messing along with, again, we go back to our graveyard, and we can start putting in these edges. So let's say, we'll go through and we'll just put in edge 1 along each of the walls, and then we'll start worrying about, like, what else you put in there, right? So you just go through and you connect it, connect it, connect it, connect it. And then you can go through, boom, place that there. This wall goes in. I think what we're going to do, however, is we're going to leave this little area here for a door. So we're not going to connect that over there. And we're just going to use this piece to connect into all the others. And again, might want to go through and nudge this just a little bit. And then move over here. Go through and again, you can rotate these walls. Just click R and then just kind of put them in place, and you're good. And just really all you need to do is just set these walls into place where they need to go. And then if you have to nudge, you can definitely nudge. Because unfortunately some of these things just aren't going to always fit when you do them, which is okay. And then just boop, boop, and then boop, boop. So now we have the walls, right? Now we have the walls here. Let's kind of connect inwards into another room, which, ooh, should have made the room a little bigger because it looks somewhat cramped. You know what? Actually, interestingly enough, this could work for what we're gonna do. This could work for what we can do when we start putting in props. Because all I'm doing in this video is just kind of setting up a little basic room, so you guys know how to go about and do this. But for now, we'll worry about that when we get to it. But now that we have our walls in, again, you can choose whether or not, and this is actually, again, this happens too. You'll have these like little pieces out here that seem to stick out a little bit. Thankfully, they have, there are things in here where you can cover that up. Because again, you don't want the players to see like the little outside of this when they're running around in game, but we'll get to that in a bit. So we'll go through and move these, right? Because again, this is our graveyard. So all of the stuff that we use goes out here. So we can go in, and with walls, let's say 2 and 3, right? So you can choose where we want to put these. And if you want variety, again, you can go through and, delete, and you can go through and say, switch this over, put this wall in, and let's say, you want to go through and put the wall in here so you can actually see it a bit more from everything else. There is... Ooh. There is a little bit of something here that just kind of changes up the wall a bit. You can see it kind of like... looks like the boards are kind of coming out a little bit outside of like, everything else, which is like regular, right? So, you can go through and mess around with this however you'd like. I don't, like, when I go through and I do things, I just kind of like to mess around and put, different variations of blocks in place, just because it could look nice. As you can see, like, over in those, like, little top corners, they're kind of broken a little bit. They're kind of chipped over here, so you definitely see something. Again, like, it's really up to you what you do, but we're going to move on. We're going to move on just because... Again, I don't want the video to be too long. I think we're going on like... How long are we going on here? Like 52 minutes, almost an hour? Yeah. So what we're going to do at this point now is we're going to get a door. Now you want to make sure you get a door that can fit in between these. So let's say you get like a door, and you can check these out. So... you have, in order to make a door, you need a front and a back, and then you need a front and a back, and then you also need a, like a little piece to put in between. Oh, that's cool. They have little intersections. So what we're gonna go for, let's say we'll go to the dive bar. We're going to go for, let's say, we're going to go for this door frame here, right? So, I'm going to rotate it. We're going to put it in here. And that actually looks really weird for what we're going for. But it's alright. And then, hold on, let's see what this frame looks like. You gotta see it, the seamstress frame. This fits just fine. There we go. So yeah, the seamstress frame, we're going to go through and choose that. And then we're also going to choose its little connector. Or I should say its back. So we're going to flip this, and then we're going to put that right here. And it all fits in place. So it's a little weird in terms of coloring compared to everything else on here. But if we really wanted to go through and use like this other door frame, which technically would complement the wall just a bit more than what this does. There's a little edge out here that would stay in. We could just like nudge it into place and then nudge this one in. Now then you get a door, and then you just kind of like put it in between. So, let's say we have this door right here. That doesn't fit. So we'll need to get, let's say... It's interesting because the door itself isn't... We want to make sure it fits. You don't want it to be like too out of the ordinary from everything else, right? Like you don't want it to be too weird. What are these little things? So we have a slim door. Just trying to figure out a little thing that could fit. Because some of these are just not going to fit. Bang, just nudge it into place. It looks like you're coming in from outside. Just kind of nudge it into place there, because I'm trying to figure out these other doors. And they also just do not look like they'd fit. So we're going to use that for now. It's not, when you originally put it in, it's not going to fit in, so just nudge it into place. So that way it looks like it just all together just pops in, right? So that way it looks like when the player walks in, they're walking in from outside, right? So let's say this isn't even like a house. It's just, maybe it's like a tiny still renovating bar, right? But either way, this is what we have. So now that we have this door in, we can go through and start, let's say, working on, props, right? So you want to go in and let's say, you just get a table. And what is this again? This is the dive bar. So let's say we'll type in dive bar. All right, so say you want a window. You want a lounge window, right? Yeah, let's say you want to put that in. So you have a little area where you can just nudge this into place. But you don't want it to be in the player's way because they'll just run through that. Because what you want is you want it to be able to fit the wall. So you want it to be able to fit the wall so you can go through and do what you need to do. And you have to kind of just nudge this over. And for some reason it's only picking up like, which kind of sucks when you think about it, because you want it to fit, but you don't want it to be in the player's path. So what we did was we went through and we nudged this in place so it fit the wall. It looks like it's actually back enough to where the player won't actually run into it and run through it, which is something we'd have to go through and test out, which we could. So actually I want to see how this would work if it was on this wall. Ah, see, this works better outside than in. So let's say we had, a little. Say we had like a little areas just kind of there, right? Patron edge. Oh, so there is a little thing for this. So we could technically do something else with these walls if we wanted to. So boom. So now we have like, windows that just you're kind of like looking outside. It's people looking in, people can look out. It's nice. There's a lot more here than I thought. I didn't remember seeing all this. This is nice. But either way, we'll worry about the wall props after. We'll go through and put some more windows in. But let's say, you just kind of want people to come in and you want to put stuff places, right? Well, let's say people walk in and there's a jukebox. And so you want to go through, and what the editor does is it looks to, and I remember them talking about this. The editor will go through and try to figure out what to place in front of each of these. So certain props that you bring in and you put them up against the wall may not do what you're looking for them to do, right? Well, that's why you're able to nudge them with, again, Alt and then the directional keys, and you can just kind of smidge them over. And it's really helpful. You just gotta kind of play with it. Let's say people come in here and there's a stage. Whoa. And this is why it's so helpful to turn off the ground sometimes. And the walls. It's like this little thing over here. Like they just kind of have their own little stage, right? They just kind of have their own little stage over here. And let's say you have like a little stage bottom you can put over this way. And you want to turn off your walls. You can just kind of mess with this. So that way now, if you want there to be a stage, you can have a stage and just kind of have it like poking out a little bit. Turn your walls back on. There's a little stage over here. And generally, you don't want to put it where the player can't really see it, if that makes sense, because you want them to be able to see the stage, right? So what we might do, because I miscalculated this place and kind of made it a little bigger than I wanted to, we'll take this wall and let's say what does it look like here? You put the stage in. Bam, they have like a little, people walk in, you're greeted. Hey, there's a stage over here. People are performing. And then on this window, say back here, on this window back here, there's a little window that points to the outside there. And then, there we go. Like, this place has, some windows. It's nice. It has a little stage. The player comes in and sees it, right? And then, you can go through and just start kind of putting on, like, let's say there's, You could have some like string that hangs around. Let's say, you place it going up. Let's say you go through and you place it going up, and you just want to place it going up. The player, funny enough, is not tall enough to run into this, so you can go through and then just kind of place this along the wall here, right? It connects, it flows, it goes this way. You can figure you could figure out like where you want to go through and put stuff, right? You don't necessarily have to do this. Again, something I'm doing mainly just because I think, when I think of walking into a club like this, it's just nice, right? Let's say there's some sort of celebration going on. You're not sure what's going on. It's just a small area. And, let's say you go through and put like a drum set on here, right? So like I can go through and move this over, and I can put a drum set right on top of this. So if you want to go through, and again, I know you guys probably see this going up and down. If you use the page up and page down keys, you can change the Y position, and it'll either go up or down. So if you're putting stuff on like a stage, right, you can go through and just figure out where you're going to go. You can go through and figure out where you're going to put it. Like up here, it's a drum set. You have a person that's going to be back there playing on the drums. You have, again, there's like a little jukebox in that corner. Maybe like a speaker that they have kind of placed, on the sides here, right? A speaker that they might have placed on the sides over here, and then you can kind of duplicate that and put it on the other end, because maybe that's where they have everything wired into, right? Because again, this is, a stage. There's generally a lot of things you can do on here. Put the stage top back over. Yeah, so you don't want to... You don't want to go through and do anything too crazy. But yeah, like you have your little like stage top there. You got drum set. If I can find something else, we'll put something else there. Let's say like, there's a little round table with a light in here, and a little round table over here, right? So yeah, you just want to populate the area so that way it looks like it can be something that people go to, right? Actually, we can even put like the pool table in here, and we could put the pool table in here, and just people go over here to play pool. This is a little area where people come in to sit down and relax, have fun, right? So you could even put these just kind of like around. Should have made this a bit bigger, but it's okay, right? Like we can figure something out. But people come in here to have some fun. People come in here to drink. Let's say, like, Actually, funny enough, let's put, instead of, you know, the tables right here, what if there's, oh, I know, like, put some tables over here. Put a, like, little back table, put a, not really a back table, we'll put, like, something right here, right? And then I just kind of, like, place them around like this. Actually, I'll maybe just do, like, 2 tables, and, you know, who knows? But, like, you know, you can go through and put a little mini bar over here, right? Like, let's say, it's a little bit of a predicament. Actually, let's put the mini bar back here. Let's put the mini bar back here. Mini bar? Okay, yeah. So this is like, you know, mini bar front, right? And then mini bar back. Boom. Actually. Yeah. You know, you have like, you know, have yourself like a little mini bar that's back here. Actually, I'm trying to figure out how they set this up. So that's the mini bar back edge, right? So then you have this here, which I'm guessing would, yep, there we go. Boom. So you have your little mini bar back here, and let's say that, you know, over in this corner here, you know, you have a little, actually no, let's say like over here is like a little, you know, table you could sit at, and then you have like a little table here in the corner, you know, that, you know, the player, not really the player, but, you know, people will, you know, sit at these places, right? You just kind of want to populate it a bit so people can see, you know, where everything is. So yeah, you know, you can definitely, like, ooh, might be a little bit too big for back here. It's kind of poking out a little bit, but yeah, we probably won't put that right there. But we know that there's enough room. People are over here. They go through, relax, they chill. You know, a little thing over here. And maybe, you know, let's put in like a pool table. Everybody's just kind of having fun playing. Actually, no, where's the other one? Having fun playing pool. You know, there's a little pool table right here. People are just having fun. I know I saw some kegs. So, like, over here, you know there's definitely something to drink when you have kegs. You know, you definitely have, like, a few things over here. Now people know that there's definitely some drinks to be had. You know, they're never running out of kegs back there. And then really, like, you can just kind of figure out what you want to do in terms of, like, decorations, right? Because, like, right now, it still looks a bit empty. It still looks a bit bland. You know, there's definitely, You know, technically I should have made this a bit bigger. I think in the next video when I come back, I'll go through, when we go through, like, you know, putting in events and all these other things, this is going to be a lot bigger. But for now, this will do, because, again, this is just me showing you guys how to go about doing these things. You know, let's put like a bar stool right here. And let's put, like, another one right here, maybe another one right there. Kind of back this up a bit. And then, like, we'll put this one, like, over here. We'll put this one, like, right here. We'll go through and put this one, like, right here. And then we'll take this one, put that right here. And then this one will get pushed, let's say, right there. So now you have little bar stools, like people can go over, chill at the bar. You know, they can do whatever. People listen to music, playing pool, and they kind of walk in. You know, there's a little stage back here. They could listen to music. You know, it's generally just a really nice place. Let's say, you know, we put a rug in at the door, right? Like, so you go through and you put a rug in at the door, move the pool table up a little bit. You know, so now people walk in. You know, it looks a lot nicer. So other than that, this is pretty much. Why not? Let's put a little bit of a bear rug right underneath this pool table. All right, just kind of make this look like more, you know, more of like a small place to just kind of relax. So right now, you know, this is what we have. This is the small place that we've created, right? You could put in a little bit more windows. You could find other windows to put on the sides here. You know, make this place look a bit more lively on the outside, right? Because it looks okay, but there's definitely a lot more that we could do here. But for now, I think this is, you know, basically it. This is the basics of using the Shadowrun editor, just kind of making your own little map, right? You know, you go through and you do whatever you'd like to do. You don't have to make this. You can make something else completely, right? You can do what you'd like, you know. But this is what we have so far. Now, when we come back, I'll teach you guys how to put in, you know, little characters and, you know, little talking events. So you walk up to somebody, you click on them, they talk. You know, I'll go through and we'll do that, and we'll even do like a little scene transition in the next video where I, you know, show you how to go through, leave this area, transition into another scene that you can create, right? But before we do that, it's time to save this. So we're going to go through and we're going to save scene as. So in a little up in the corner on the top, you'll have your little file button here. Click on save scene as, and you name your scene whatever you want. I'm going to name this just tutorial bar. It's going to refresh the content pack data, and it's going to go through and pretty much just save everything that you've done, and it'll show up here in the story data for what it's called. And that will pretty much be the first scene that you create in Shadowrun. And as you can see over here, you know, in the scene analysis, we haven't even used too much. It's just 12 on the CPU and 224 memory. But the thing is, all that memory, that 200 memory that pops up out of nowhere, is just from the scene being large, not the map that we've made. So it takes into consideration a map that could potentially be a big city. So it already has that 200 memory. It's just you have to figure out how you're going to go about and use, you know, the rest of it, right? But now our scene is saved. You can see it pops up here on the name, and then it goes into its little tutorial, content pack tutorial level. And that's pretty much all there is that's here. Let's go through and delete these, because we no longer need these in the graveyard, right? So now we get rid of the CPU. We free up things even more. So now we just have this little bar here. And that's pretty much that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. This is just the the basics on this Shadowrun tutorial, and then on the next video that I make, we'll be going through and making, again, we'll be spawning in the player. We'll have, this will be a lot bigger in the second video, so that way it'll be more room to put things and do a lot more. So it'll be a lot better than this in the second video. So we have a lot more room to work with. But we'll be doing player interaction, scene transition, and then let's say there will be a scene transition and a little fight that happens outside, and I'll even play through it as well. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.